Hi, I'm Mike Aiton from Pro Tools Expert, and I'm over at Richmond Film Services in Richmond as a guest of Nigel Woodford, the owner of the company. So, Nigel, we'd like to find out about Richmond Film Services. So, how did your career in the sound industry actually start?
Well, it started off, like many people's, at the BBC, starting off in the television studios.
What year was this?
Start off in 1962.
Goodness me.
Yes.
Black and white then?
Black and white, 405 lines.
And no BBC Two?
No, that was anticipated because this is why they recruited quite a lot of people at that time. Mm-hmm. And unlike a lot of people working in the film and television industry these days, then got sort of 3 months training at BBC Wood Norton. And then after a few years in the television studios, I did a couple of holiday relief attachments to film department.
And that's the film department at Ealing Studios?
That's right.
Yeah.
Also at that time we got outposts at Lime Grove.
Yep.
And Alexandra Palace.
Oh, that was still going then?
Yes, all that film department did was service the transfer suite and the dubbing theatre there.
Okay.
And then having done the 2 holiday relief attachments, I went on to apply for a permanent job there, which I got as an assistant recordist, and after a few years became a sound recordist. And then, whilst we're filming somewhere, working on a Trevor Philpott documentary about golf, that chap said, "Oh, is that Nagra you've got there?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you want to buy one?"
Just so, if I may interject, just to let some of our viewers know who may not be familiar with a Nagra, if they've not worked in location sound since maybe the 90s, some of our audience are a little bit younger. Could you just explain what a Nagra is?
Well, a Nagra is a professional tape recorder. At that time, they were all analogue.
Yep.
And it's made in Switzerland, and they're still being made today, but different machines, digital machines. Mm-hmm. And anyway, that time, everything that was shot on location was recorded on a Nagra.
On quarter-inch tape.
Quarter-inch tape, and in those days, although there were the odd stereo machine around, it was all done in mono. Mm-hmm. So you had a Nagra with 3 pots on the top, and you mixed it to mono there and then. And anyway, I was saying that this chap said, "Do you want to buy one?" I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Oh, well, I'm a loss adjuster and I've got one that's been damaged and we'd like to try and recover a bit of money on it." So I bought it for £100, which was quite a bit of money at the time. A new one cost about 600.
Oh, okay. So was this several months' salary, sort of, in those days? Or?
Pretty much about a month's salary.
A month's salary,
yes.
Okay.
So anyway, having got this, I managed to get it working again, mm-hmm. and then had a chance to hire it out. And after a few hires, thought, what should we do with the money from this? I know, buy some microphones. Mm-hmm. So bought a couple of microphones. And
which, the 416 was this, or?
Oh, no, that hadn't even been invented then. No.
Sorry, I show my lack of vintage.
Yes, bought some AKG microphones, mm-hmm. And then later there was an auction at Shepperton Studios, and I bought an 805 microphone.
Ah, the precursor to the 816, which is the long shotgun.
Yes.
And that was T-powered in those days.
T-powered, yes.
Before phantom power. T-powering is 12 volts.
Yes. And anyway, bought that and started to build up a kit. And my wife was helping me run this business whilst I still went off and recorded sound. Mm-hmm. And we slowly bought more and more kit. Till eventually the house was full of it stuff, so we rented a premises in East Sheen.
Yep.
And then the business picked up. I left the BBC and ran the business full time.
So it got to the stage where your hire company was so busy that you were struggling to do your day job.
Yes, yeah. And so then running that there, those premises soon became too small. Mm-hmm. And I just happened to notice a little advert in the paper saying former educational premises to let.
Yeah.
So I approached the estate agents, found out it was this place, and it looked ideal. Lots of ground floor storage, big car park, fairly easy to get to, good transport links. So
we're in the middle of Richmond,
Yeah.
in West London.
right
So
near
we're
the station.
near the station, near the M3, near the A316, M25, not far from the BBC at Ealing, Television Centre, Shepperton Studios, Pinewood Studios,
Yes, except not.
Twickenham Film Studios,
Yeah, except
Microphonics, of course.
yes. Teddington Studios shortly to close, and of course the BBC's all gone from Shepherd's Bush area now. But anyway, a lot of our customers, in terms of freelance recorders, seem to live in West London. So anyway, we moved here. We've got a great big car park, which is very handy for people who want to come and talk about the equipment and things before they take it away. And so it's just sort of grown from there. And now eventually this building's a little on the small side.
As you will see, we'll show you that this building is crammed full of anything and everything you will ever need for broadcast sound. It's an absolute Aladdin's den. So what have you seen? How have you found the industry? How's it changed for you in recently? Have you noticed any trends?
Certainly there's trends that feature film industry is still being done properly and professionally, even though you can hardly call them films now because they're shot on digital cameras.
Sure.
But what we're finding is that we get a lot more people who've not got much experience and don't even know quite what they're asking for.
So a lot of producer-led shooting where they've come in and say, I've got a camera, but I need to know how to make my sound better.
Yes, that
So
sort of thing.
You're able to, with your 40 years experience and having all the kit in the sun available, able to advise them as to the best way to approach their sound.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's one of the great unique selling points of Richmond Film Services. I've been a customer here for a long time, and before I bought my studio microphone that I used to hire a U87 or a 193 if I was recording for the History Channel, which is their preferred microphone, I used to hire from you guys all the time, weekly, and sometimes the 193 used to live at my house for weeks on end because every time I'd have it for a day or two, they'd ring up, say, can you do one more voiceover? It would stay for another couple of days. And in the end, for me, it became to the point where it was worth me buying. But so you've seen a trend and a change in the operation and the use. Have you seen a trend and a change in the equipment that people are using these days?
Well, obviously, as I said before, the analogue tape recorders virtually ceased, although just before we started doing this, somebody hired a Nagra 4.2 analogue machine. Yes.
I haven't seen one of those in 25 years, I don't think.
Yes. Well, this is for a Bollywood film, and they still use them in India. And when they come here, they tend to use them. Some of the microphones have been around for years. We've seen the coming of a microphone company called DPA, Danish Pro Audio, which used to be Burrell and Kerr.
B&K, yes.
Yes, who made scientific measuring instruments and measuring microphones.
The famous B&K Omni.
Yes. And then they suddenly realised that if people wanted a microphone that could be used for measurements because it was beautifully accurate, lovely smooth response.
Razor flat.
Yes, very low noise. People might actually like those for recording. So then they started selling them that way. Then they spun off that part of the business to become Danish Pro Audio. And now they're producing lots of little headset microphones.
So do you get lots of theatre companies?
Not so much theatre companies because that's not really our line of customers. But we do get a lot of people using them, probably more short term than theatres. What was I going to say? The other thing that we've noticed is a lot more radio microphones used nowadays. Because in the early days, one tender to use a boom because sound recorders consisted of 2 people, sound recordist and
a boom swinger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's just one man, and also because of a lot of shooting with multiple cameras, and this is particularly so on feature films.
And the larger television dramas.
Yes, where they have one camera on a huge wide shot that you can't get a boom in, whilst all the others are doing close-ups, that they've got to be radio mic'd. You can't use a boom for that. Although I do wonder whether the wide shot is used for anything more than an establisher, as it used to be done with one camera.
Yeah. I used to find when I used to be a boom operator on EastEnders, for instance, that was never shot single camera, it was always shot multi-camera, but usually 2 or 3 cameras on location and cut live. So you had to be a very good boom operator to be able to know which line the wide shot was and read your script and know what was happening for each shot, because otherwise you get very caught out and people would get very cross at having to do another take for you.
Yes. Well, of course, when I started in television, we used to do live dramas in the television studios with booms.
So what's the process when people want to hire something? And when they're coming here to hire, they're not just hiring microphones, preamps and recorders. Tell us about some of the other equipment that you have in your arsenal here.
Well, we've got quite a bit of communication stuff like walkie-talkies, talkback systems, masses of cables, adapter leads.
Yep.
Then you mentioned recorders. We have mixers. We've even got some quite large digital mixers now. And effects equipment you mentioned, that's not so popular nowadays because most digital mixers seem to have all that built in. So we don't get so much of that going out. We have a lot of little problem-solving boxes.
Yeah.
So that if somebody wants something...
Telephone balance units,
yes,
the classic thing.
Telephone balance units, or we recently had a job where somebody wanted to have 2 actors in 2 different rooms talking to one another on the phone.
Yep.
And we've got a box that you can connect 2 telephones together, ring either of them.
To make the telephones practical?
Yes.
A prac phone, as we used to call it at the BBC.
Yes, and it also gives an output of the phone line.
Yep.
So that they can record the distorted
the
phone.
other end.
Yes.
So you've got the clean on your studio microphones.
Yes.
But you've got the other end recorded on the distortion. So allowing the director to intercut either end.
Yes.
Sound-wise.
Yes.
Okay. So save the dubbing mixer having to cod it up, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. So provided it's all recorded on 3 tracks, you've got everything.
So you've also got all sorts of other ancillary equipment, such as megaphones, I think.
Oh yes, yeah, that's all. Microphone stands galore.
Yep.
Various clamps for attaching microphones here, there, and everywhere.
But I've also noticed as James and I were coming through the corridor, we noticed like you've got a collection of things like old ribbon mics.
Yes.
And all the sort of weird adapters you need to get from a Coles 4038 into an XLR, and
yes,
because they have a weird, is it called an LNE?
ST&C jack.
ST&C jack. That's
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, 4038s still go out a bit, but some of these old microphones, which I just like to collect, but they do get used as props now and then.
Yeah.
So, I've got a collection of those. And in terms of Nagra, I've even got a Nagra 2.
Goodness me.
Which is a very old machine. It's, in fact, in terms of tape recorders, quite energy efficient because it's clockwork.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
You heard it here, folks. A clockwork tape recorder.
Yes.
Goodness me. So what's the process when someone wants to hire something? Literally, they can scour your massive equipment list on your website.
Yes.
And then it's a matter of what's the process?
Well, usually they'll phone up or send an email and ask for what they think they want.
Yep.
We'll probably talk with them. If they've got doubts, we might say, well, if you want to do that, that's probably not the right piece of equipment. You might want...
Have you thought of this? Or...
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, then, of course, if it's a brand new customer, when they come to collect, we do ask them to bring various proofs of identity, because they are taking away thousands of pounds worth of stuff.
Sure.
And we don't want to just hand over things to somebody who can't prove who they are. You might never see them again.
So, I mean, when I used to hire a U87, I was always astounded at how reasonable hiring equipment actually is cost-wise. I mean, from the top of my head, it was £18 a day, I think.
Oh, less than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was only about £12 then, I think.
£12 for a U87. So for small project studios, hiring really is, I think, the way forwards. And, there is a massive arsenal of equipment here for which people should be tapping your experience and your knowledge.
Well, yes. If you think about it, if somebody is going to record a vocal and they want to have something really good, and they probably only do this actual recording a few days a year, the rest of the time they're editing and things, well, they could either go and spend £100 on a U87 lookalike, or you could buy a U87 for about £2,000, or hire it for, I think the going rate now is £12.50 a day.
We've had a lot of requests from people saying which microphone do you advise as the best thing for recording voiceovers. I've had my personal favourites, but you've very kindly sponsored us and loaned us, I think it's 8 different microphones. So we're going to put all these up against each other and record them at Microphonics. We've got a professional male voiceover and a professional female voiceover coming in this afternoon. And I do remember when I gave you my list, I remember your eyebrow raising, I think, even on the telephone, and saying, a 416? Why would you want that for a voiceover?
Yes.
So you act surprised. Now, in America, a 416 is a very, very popular microphone. It has, for some reason, people seem to think it lends an incredible presence to voice recordings that the U87 doesn't, for instance, and it's preferred for its ability to stand out and punch. I mean, you're surprised. I think you'll be fascinated to hear our results as well.
Yes. Well, the 416 is fine for recording voice in a noisy environment. It's got a sort of HF peak that does make a rather hard sound, which perhaps might suit American accents better.
Indeed.
But, if you're trying to do a voiceover to match location stuff that's been recorded on a 416, then it might be a good choice.
Sure.
But if it's just a pure commentator's voiceover, then it's not to compare with the stuff that's been shot on location, then it might not be so good.
No. Well, we recently a friend of mine who's a voice artist and a regular announcer for the BBC sent me a recording. He uses at home a TLM 103, which is a popular large diaphragm condenser from Neumann, and he used that, sent that recording to me, and also sent another recording to me and said, which do you think sounds better? And I have to say, I went, recording B by a long shot. It jumps out the speakers and had such presence and life to it. And he said, you're never going to believe what it was. And I went, no. And my reaction was exactly the same as yours when he said, it's a 416. And I went, but that's a location mic. I'd use that for ADR, but never for voiceover. And he went, hearing is believing. So this is exactly why we want to do the test.
Yes.
And we're very grateful to you for helping us with this. And it's been a great way for us to be able to introduce all the people who come to our website about your services, and to be thinking about when you're recording on location to talk to the right people, to get the advice. And this is where hire companies are your friend, because Nigel is a very well-known man in the industry with 40 years of experience.
52, actually.
52. I stand corrected, Governor. And, this is why we're here, because as you will see from around you, there is everything here. There's the knowledge and there's the will to make it better, which is why that's why we get up every day and do what we do. Yes, we have to earn a living, but we want the world to sound better.
Can I just tell you a little story about voiceover?
Sure.
That I was actually filming Billy Connolly playing snooker, right? Whilst he was doing this, he was talking about accents in Scotland. So we shot this sequence, which I thought, right, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Then when I saw the programme, they didn't use any of the shots of him playing snooker. They just used it as voiceover. And all you could hear in the background, or we did hear very much in the background, all the sound of snooker going on, whilst you had exterior shots of people in Edinburgh.
How bizarre. So, Nigel, thank you very much for your time today and for helping sponsor us on Pro Tools Expert with our voiceover mic shootout. We're very grateful, and we'd be delighted to be able to send you the results and see if you can eat your 416 hat, so to speak. The proof will be in the pudding.
Right, okay.
So thank you for your time, Nigel, at Richmond Film Services.
Thank you.